Welcome back to another episode of Match Points with USPTA. I'm Ramona Husaru, and today I have a special guest, our very own CEO, Brian Dillman. Brian, welcome. So fun to have you here.
Thanks, Ramona. Great to be here. I'm looking forward to the chat we have today.
Excellent. Our coaches would love to get to know you a little bit better. You've served in many leadership positions across many different industries. So you are a wealth of knowledge, bringing a lot of experience from outside the racket sports industry. So I'm sure our coaches would like to know a little bit more about your experiences and get to know you a little bit better.
It's my pleasure. Ask anything. Everything's on the table.
Well, why don't we start by talking about how you got into tennis?
Well, it was because I couldn't swim. I originally started on a swim team in Shreveport, Louisiana, and I couldn't do the individual medley. I was stuck in the butterfly, and literally in the middle of the pool, I'm thinking, what am I doing? This is not for me. So I got out of the pool, I walked over to the tennis courts, and I started taking tennis lessons.
And then from there, you continued playing competitively. We know you've played junior tennis and then moved on to playing college tennis. Tell us a little bit more about that.
It just became one of those things that, I got into the right situation. My coach, Noni Machilka, was just such a great mentor, and we had this group of kids that were all in the same age group that, boys and girls from all over Dallas, and we all kind of came to play together. So for like a 6 or 7 year period, we all just played each other every day. We learned from each other, and we beat each other up, and it ended up, I think like 8 or 9 of us went to Division I and played Division I tennis, a few All-Americans, a few national champions. So it was really this really unique position for all of us to be in, but we learned and we had such a great time together.
Tell us a little bit about your college experience. I know you have a bachelor's in communications. Tell us a little bit about how you got into that, and once you graduated, what was the next step?
I think for me, I thought I wanted to be in advertising and in marketing and things like that, so communication seemed to be the natural fit, and I think I could balance that along with playing tennis and trying to have the full college experience at the same time. But ultimately, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I got out of college. I thought, I love tennis. I mean, tennis was absolutely in my heart and soul, but I didn't really think that, being a professional and teaching was going to be an option, although I did try to play professionally and earned about $72 doing that, so I knew that wasn't going to be the path.
Yeah, I mean, we know that the pathway to pro tennis is quite challenging, and sometimes we do have to consider other options, right? So tell us a little bit about that transition from college. How did you decide to get your first job, and what was it?
So I mentioned Noni earlier. She drove up to Champaign, where I went to school at the University of Illinois, go Illini, and she sat down and said, I have a career proposal for you. And her claim to fame was she wrote everything in paper, in pencil. And she had this very distinct script, and she laid it out for me, and I can remember the place we were having a coffee, and she laid it out and said, I can show you through teaching, through tournaments, through umpiring, through all the things around tennis, I can show you how you can make $70,000 your first year out of college. And this is in 1990. And I had done some interviews on campus, and I thought, oh, this sounds perfect. And so that's exactly what I did. So I graduated on a Friday, and I drove back to Dallas on a Saturday or Sunday, and I started teaching on Monday, and that was how the career started.
So during that time, you got to experience the teaching side of it. You also got to experience the operations side of it, a little bit of retail from what you've told me. How did that morph into your next role?
What was so great about it is that it was, even though it was a club, but she owned the pro shop, so she taught me buying, how to string rackets. I mean, I strung rackets, almost every day, to help pay for expenses and things like that. Clinics, private lessons, that, and then she actually then encouraged me to get certified by the USPTA, so I did. So John Ingram did our certification at Prestonwood Country Club, and I did that, and then from there just started doing more even tournaments and leagues, and and it was all under Noni's supervision, and that was great because she was a great teacher and a great leader, and let me make mistakes and along the way, and was just very good on how she would teach and educate, as well as give me the responsibility as I went. So for a 20, 21-year-old, a lot of responsibility, a lot of learning very quickly.
It goes to show how much a mentor can make a difference, especially when we're very young, we finish our competitive career, we don't know exactly what we're going to do next. Having that contact or having that mentor that can show us the ropes and show us like where the skills are, where we could thrive. How important was that for you?
Critical, because it came from a place of caring from her. And anybody that was kind of in her world that was under that umbrella of her was always felt like you were cared for and loved and really given opportunities. But it wasn't without the tough love too. I mean, if you're screwing up, you're gonna know you're screwing up, and you were told that along the way. And I think those were the boundaries I think that I kind of grew up with, which were great. It's okay to make mistakes, don't make them twice. And remember, you're in the customer service and the people business while you're here. You know, it is a club, it's a private club. They have members, they have expectations and things like that. So yeah, having a mentor like that. And then the other pros around the Dallas area also became friends and mentors along the way. So that, I think that ecosystem and that network really became beneficial, and how, you know, early in my professional career were really great influences.
Yeah, and that's where the strength of the USPTA really is in terms of people willing to give back to the sport, mentor others, and shape them into the people that they become later. And then the cycle just keeps going.
There's something about tennis that just emanates service. And I think because you can't do it by yourself, you need a coach, you need a mentor, you need people to play with, you meet friends and things like that. But most of the people you meet in our industry have this ethos of giving back and helping other people and seeing other people succeed along the way. And I think that really resonates with me, and I think that's why this industry means so much to me, because I think you have that give and take in it, and it really feels great about it.
Well, thank you for sharing that. So let's go back to your journey, and obviously with some of the experience that you've had working at that club and some of the retail experience, you got into working for Wilson.
I did. I was very lucky. Our sales rep in the Dallas area, Cynthia Shipper at the time, was a phenomenal rep, and she was another big influence on us on you know, when somebody gives you something free of charge, like a tennis racket or an endorsement contract, what do? You put stencils on your racket. You're always talking, you know, if people ask you questions, you're intelligent about it, you know how to communicate, and I turned out to be a pretty good salesperson at the club, and so, you know, the Wilson sales were big, and she communicated that to the management, and so I had an interview, and I had to drive to New Orleans to do the interview, and I can remember how nervous I was, but I think one of the key was I had a pair of Wilson socks on underneath my dress socks for good luck, but the funny thing is I actually came in second place in the interview process. But the good news was the guy that was offered the job at first turned it down. So I'll take second place on that one.
There you go. You just need your foot in the door.
Just need your foot in the door.
That's right. So then what was next? So you started as a sales representative, then you went into product development, more marketing, and then eventually becoming the head of global marketing, even overseas. So tell us a little bit about that.
You know, it was really interesting because I think, again, when you have passion and you work hard and you believe in what you're doing, I think, you know, good things happen. And you know, my first couple meetings and couple presentations as a salesman were a disaster. I mean, they were so bad. But you learn from that, right? So just like, you know, double faulting on match point, you know, a bad sales presentation turns into you learn the next time and you do a little better and you do a little better. And you know, eventually I got pretty good at it, but I can remember one meeting specifically in Little Rock, Arkansas. Mal Stallings, who has since passed away, so he was a wonderful guy, but military guy, and he said, all right, sit down right there, and I'm going to tell you all the things your company's done wrong. And so he just talked and talked and talked and talked and talked. And by the time he was done, I said, and I had no idea, this is my first experience with, you know, things that I didn't have any control over, but I had to listen. I was representing the company. And I had no idea what to do when he stopped, and I said, is that it? Like I literally said, is there anything else I need to know about, you know, before we start? He goes, and he thought about it for a second, nope, that's it. And from there, we ended up having a great relationship. I said, I can't do anything about what's already happened, but I can promise you that, you know, we'll do our best going forward. So that kind of attitude, I think, is how I kind of moved up and tried new things. But you know, failure is a good one. You know, I did start as a junior marketing guy when we moved to Chicago with Wilson, and then I was promoted to be in charge of pre-strung rackets and junior rackets. And my claim to fame, or flame, I guess would be a way to think about it, is we launched Marvel junior tennis rackets. So Spider-Man and the Hulk and Storm and Wolverine, and we had this whole package of junior tennis rackets with Marvel and Spider-Man and all that. And we launched them and we got them placed at Costco and Target and had just such a great sell-in, and then Marvel went bankrupt. So the entire program just was a disaster. So as typical Wilson things is, great idea, you tried it, you executed it well, let's promote you. So a lot of people, in the business, even though things may not go so well, when you do try to think outside of the box and be a little more creative, those things are rewarded. And so, yeah, I did have a chance to go move to Europe and ran the European marketing for Wilson for about 4 years, which was amazing.
So obviously trying new things and thinking outside the box takes a lot of creativity and a lot of confidence and courage. Tell us a little bit about how you develop these skills, and what other skills do you think you have developed by spending time at Wilson and pretty much working your way up, navigating the different roles you had?
I think, and you would know this too, I think tennis has a lot to do with it. I mean, tennis as a sport, and as you become better at it, you learn risk reward, you learn taking chances, you learn overcoming obstacles, you learn mental toughness and weakness, and all that stuff I think plays in. And I don't know that, I'd love to say that's directly related to success off the court and in business, but I have to think there's a correlation. And I think when you do that so long and you become really good at that, things that are thrown at you, just like on the tennis court, you kind of figure out how to manage around. So listening was a big skill I learned, especially living in Europe as the American coming over and from Wilson headquarters and that and the last thing you want to do there is go in and tell people what to do, because that usually doesn't work, and especially in multi-languages and multi-cultures. And I think one of the best things I did there was just learn how to listen, and the more you listen, the more you realize how you can help them. And if you show that you care enough to listen and show that you want to help them, they'll usually come on side pretty quickly. And that has worked, I think, as a number one strategy in almost every role. And I've spent time in Asia developing product and literally all over the world. And the number one thing I would say is, if you want to get anything done, you've got to help people achieve their goals first.
So talking about that, since you've worked with many different people with various backgrounds, and you lived in Europe and you also did work in Asia and many other countries as well, what were some of the keys to success in terms of relating to their type of work style? Or, the culture is a little different depending on where you're from, right? So what else has been a key to success in terms of working with international?
I think it's curiosity. I think people who see you're curious or interested in their culture will open their arms, and also asking questions. And I think asking questions of others about how did you get started? Why are you here? Where did you come from? Things that motivate them. That endears you to people and opens up a dialogue. I think if you come in only with a point of view where you're telling somebody what to do, or you're trying to accomplish a goal without understanding what other people's goals are, that one-way relationship usually doesn't work very well. So I would say listening is key, curiosity is key, and then empathy. And I think that's the other thing that's hard to come across sometimes in multi-languages, especially as you're sitting in meetings and everybody on the other side of the table is trying to be important and show their strengths and why they are important in those meetings. And I find you maybe telling a joke every once in a while or kind of lightening the mood makes everybody a little bit more comfortable. So I think it is making people feel more comfortable in their own skin in those situations, and helping others succeed is a key to everything.
I love that. I love the fact that you bring up empathy, because a lot of times it's just a matter of understanding what the others are, where are they coming from, and as long as they might have a different way of doing things and achieving things, but as long as the results are there, it doesn't really matter if it's different than your way, right?
Well, I think that's the biggest thing to think about is think about it. If you travel anywhere outside of the United States, those cultures have all been around longer than we have. So for us to think that we know better than anybody else it's the wrong premise. So, traveling to Asia and Japan and Korea and Turkey and Israel and all these places I've been lucky enough to go, knowing that they have great answers and great ways to do things that may not fit with what I think or believe is the key to, I think, anybody getting along in any cultural business to start with. I mean, there isn't only one way. And we have to be open to the fact that there isn't only one way.
And that's where the growth mindset comes in. That's what helps us continue to advance. So let's go back to the journey a little bit. So after the Wilson journey, you then transition into fitness and wellness, as well as apparel industry. And you lived in London, where you worked for Peter Millar. Tell us a little bit about what brought you success in those industries.
Going from tennis, you build, or at least from the Wilson experience, and plus being a tennis professional, you develop all these skills along the way, and you wonder in your own head, are they transferable? Like, if I can do this in tennis, can I do this in other industries? Can I do it in fitness? Can I do it in apparel? Can I do it in, these other areas where you think the skills transfer, but maybe from a perception standpoint they won't, because you've just been a tennis pro. Well, they do transfer. And so I think the same skills, that whether you're talking to a consumer about fitness or you're talking to a consumer about a tennis racket or men's apparel, the conversations are the same. How can I help you solve a problem? Do my products fit with your needs? And one of the really interesting conversations in the fitness world and also in the apparel world, it's a whole new vernacular, it's all new language, and you have to learn about stitches and wovens versus blends and this kind of thing. But at the end of the day, if you're talking to Nordstrom about doing a program with them, or you're talking to St. Andrews and the Old Course Hotel, you're having the same conversations. How can we help you? How can we solve a problem? How can we make you successful? And so I think that's the transferable skill that I've learned along the way, and I think that's what one of the reasons, or one of the things I bring to the USPTA too, is how can I help our professionals and how can I help our members be more successful?
So you were away from tennis for a while, and now you're back into tennis with obviously a diverse perspective from the various industries that you've been in. What is your first impression about our industry coming back, and what are you excited about?
So first of all, I missed it. I absolutely missed the industry. I did stay in it. I was volunteering with the USPTA in Chicago, and it's an industry that when you love it, you love it. And so I missed it for sure. I think I missed some of the boring part. I missed the pandemic part, but I also missed it when there wasn't really a lot going on. And then tennis starts to grow, and then you add in pickleball, and then you add in other sports, and you add in other organizations, and the world and the dynamics are changing. And I think it's incredible, because I think that's what I see as opportunity for our membership and an opportunity for growth here, so that we can add more services and more benefits to our membership through all this diversity and all this great energy that's happening in racket sports right now.
And if you were to compare our industry with some of the other ones, how would you describe it?
Every industry, when you really get into the core of it, are people with passion. And whether you're passionate as a fashion designer, or you're passionate as somebody creating a new fitness, some new fitness equipment, or a brand new, faster, more aerodynamic bicycle. So passion is where it starts, and boy, you don't find more passion, I think, than what you get from the tennis industry and the racket sports industry. So passion is number one, but I think what is so cool about it is people who are in this industry have such unique skills that no other industry has. It's managing people, it's commission sales, it's event management, it's personnel management, it's all this great skill set you develop and learn, whether you're on the court, you're teaching people, you're managing people, but when you're in that racket sports business, you're developing all these great skills along the way. And I think that's what's so unique about our industry, is the diversity of what people can do and the diversity of their experiences.
So you did miss the boring part, like you mentioned. Obviously, every industry has its challenges, but now you're back, and tell us a little bit more about what excites you and what do you see the future of the USPTA? as?
I think the USPTA is in a great position right now. I think the industry itself is looking for leadership, and I think we have an opportunity to be that leadership, especially as a lot of facilities, public-private, transition from just tennis into more racket sports facilities. So whether you're adding pickleball, padel, platform, squash, tennis, other forms of tennis, the industry itself right now is ripe for opportunity for growth, for careers, and that's the number one thing I see are the careers that are the future of what racket sports careers are going to look like. And I think it's one of our opportunities is to show our membership and to educate our membership on how to embrace those careers and how to really learn and become a better candidate for new jobs and new opportunities in this industry. I think the other thing is the recruiting of the industry is really important right now. I think, as a lot of our members age out or move out of the tennis and racket sports world into something else, we have to continue to backfill the rest of the industry. So we've got to recruit and we've got to show new recruits into this industry why it's such a valuable profession and why this profession can be rewarding, fulfilling, lucrative, and something that may be different than people think about every day. I think the impression of what a tennis pro is maybe not be so great, and thank you maybe to Hollywood or some impressions that people have about tennis pros. But in general, a racket sports director at any facility is managing a multi-million-dollar business. They're managing people and staff, and they're managing events and capital improvements. I mean, those are great skills and great professions to be in, and I think one of our jobs is to really promote that and help our members achieve those skills they need.
Well, we are all very excited about your leadership, and as we're going through the strategic planning process, obviously we'll have more information available to our members soon. But what an exciting time for us to do something a little bit different and create more opportunities for our pros.
I think the other thing that I see as an opportunity is for us really to raise up the profile of our industry. If you ask somebody on the street if they heard about the USPTA, probably not. Have they heard about other organizations in the tennis ecosystem? Probably not. Because they're just, they play, they love the sport and things like that. But we have thousands and thousands of career professionals in our industry that have put their time, their love, their sweat, their tears into. And I think it's incumbent on us to raise their profile and help celebrate them. Think about if you've ever played tennis or you've ever had a mentor, or if you've ever learned a skill like what we do, and the person that taught you that, the person that taught you how to play, the impact they've had on you. And our membership has such an impact on the downstream of people that they need to be celebrated. We have thousands of members that have great stories and great track records and great histories that we've got to celebrate that and lift them up to show the rest of the consumer base what our industry's like.
Well, we look forward to all of this, exciting times ahead. And as you're now into your leadership role within the USPTA, I'm sure our coaches would like to know a little bit more about your leadership style. So tell us in your own words, what is your definition of a great leader, and what are some things that you're looking forward to doing?
That's a big one. That's a loaded question too. I think leadership comes from working together, mutual respect, and then it goes back to listening and empathy. I think one of the things that we have to realize is that nobody can do this by themselves. I did have a conversation with one of my members. He said, "I can't believe you're here. The CEO's hitting tennis balls with me." My job is to be a cheerleader. And I think if I can be a cheerleader for our industry, our national staff is incredibly talented, and they've got passion and love, and they're motivated to help our membership. Our national board is incredibly passionate and experienced and excited to help the organization and as our members. So, nobody can do this alone. We all need to do this together, and I think that's one of the great spirits of the USPTA is the community and the togetherness. So that's a key part to any leadership style, is bringing everybody together. And the other thing is that empathy and realizing that not everybody is created equally, not everybody has the same situation. And so we have to listen, we have to think, and we have to be there for all of our membership, not just a certain subsection. We have to be there for everybody.
On a personal note, in terms of leadership or in terms of your values, is there a particular motto that you live by every day?
So I used to drive from Dallas, Texas to Champaign, Illinois, because that's where I lived versus where I went to college. And so that was a 13-and-a-half-hour drive, and this is before mobile phones, satellite radio, or anything like that. So I had cassette tapes, and my cassette tapes were from Zig Ziglar. And if I have to old-splain this to younger people, Zig Ziglar was one of the first motivational speakers and one of the best sales trainers on the planet. And his motto, which is one that I've lived with, which is very similar to your golden rule, which is you can get anything you want in life if you help other people get what they want. And to me, that is exactly the spirit and the ethos of not only myself, but our industry. It's that service orientation of help other people get what they want, and your life is going to be very fulfilled.
What a wonderful insight and meaningful way of living every day. If we go back to just the roots of what we do in terms of coaching, right? We're helping our players achieve their dreams and then building them into strong individuals that will succeed past beyond the tennis court, and then hopefully that cycle they will give back to the others. And as we see in our association, our members do that every day.
Well, if you think about it, we're a volunteer organization. I mean, we have a relatively small national staff, but everything else we do is volunteer-based. And that in and of itself should show you the level of service and giving and care and love that all of our members have and all of our industry has. So that itself is inspirational, I think, and we should recognize that volunteerism is kind of in our blood as well. So whether we start and grew up, doing USTA stuff and helped with tournaments or clinics or things like that, and as we move into what the USPTA does and stands for, that volunteer mantra really is fundamental to everything we do.
If you were to give advice to anyone who would be interested in pursuing a career similar to yours and eventually becoming a CEO, what are some of the skills that they would need to have, and what advice would you give them?
Great question again. I think you need to touch all different assets of business. I think I would encourage everybody to be in commission sales. I mean, learn how to eat what you kill. And whether that's selling something, a product, whether that's teaching tennis and getting an hourly fee for it, or any world that's in, because it really shows you how to learn, how to be empathetic, how to listen, and if you want to continue on and you want to feed yourself and your family, you have to learn how to do that efficiently and that way. But the other skill, I think, is just to be open-minded and listen and be curious. And it's easy to say, there's lots of cliches about take a risk, but you really do have to. You have to take a couple shots. But don't do it prematurely. Realize that people want to see you putting in time and effort first. But if you do that and you're effective with that and you look like you care and you put that effort in, then people will see, and you'll get opportunities along the way if you do take your shots.
And like you mentioned earlier, learn from the failures, right? All the things that you try and don't work are just lessons that will get you better later.
It's funny you say that, because at one point in my junior tennis career, I lost 16 matches in a row. I went to the national clay courts, the national hard courts, and it was like first, literally 16 matches in a row. But I ended up having the best summer I ever had after that. And it wasn't, there wasn't any magic bullet to it. You just have to keep working and you just have to try new things. And I think that translates so well into business. Is you're not going to get everything perfect. But you're also never going to advance if you don't try. And so, is it learning how to hit a second serve a little bit better, or is it actually doing something creative with a marketing program, or creating a new product or something like that? But you're never going to get anywhere further if you don't try.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And speaking about advice, you've worked with many different people across your career, learned from them. What would you say is the best piece of advice that you have received so far?
Well, I don't know if it was a piece of advice or more of a mandate, but it was in the apparel business. It's very cyclical, and you're at the mercy of the buyer's decision and fashion and how the trends change and stuff like that. And the CEO that I was working for at the time, Scott Mahoney from Peter Millar, his mantra was just do better. Like every day you get up and just do better. And I think I've taken that, and there's actually a Japanese term called Kaizen, which is continuous improvement. And so I actually write down to myself every day, try to be 1% better today than I was yesterday. And that do better mentality, I think, helps just promote growth and promote open-mindedness and promote trying new things.
Well, once again, thanks for sharing that, as they're a little bit more personal insights as to how you see things and what motivates you every day. So that leads us to, as we get a little closer to the end of this episode, leads us to the question of what do you want your legacy to be?
Legacy. I'm not old enough to want to leave a legacy yet, Ramona. I don't know why you would think that this might be. But I think legacy has to come with, did I help and serve other people? And I feel like if I can achieve what we want to achieve with our role here at the USPTA, is leave other people better than you found them and do better for others. And if that could be my legacy, if people can look at some of the things that we've done here and say, I have a better job because of it, I learned more skills because of it, I'm a more complete person because of it, or I've given back to others because of it, I think I'd like that to be my legacy.
Powerful, very powerful. Thanks for sharing that. So every episode ends with 3 match points. I know it's tough to summarize it in just 3 things, but we try to end every episode with 3 main takeaways.
So my takeaways are: be intentional. So with everything you do it for a purpose. Be curious. I think we mentioned that and talked about that, so which is be open-minded, and be empathetic. I think if you can be empathetic to other people, they will connect to you, you will form those connections, and you can do anything you want with those 3 things.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for willing to spend the time. I know you have a busy schedule, and I think it really gives an opportunity to our coaches to get to know you a little bit better, to learn from your experiences, kind of understand the pathway that you've come up now with the USPTA, and I'm sure they look forward to seeing you at the future events.
I can't wait. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Well, that was it for today. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.